Hi guys, hope you're well. I'm just prepping this fun video for you and it's all about Faux calligraphy, which is a really fun lettering technique where you can use literally any pen to achieve a really nice calligraphy effect. So it's a lot of fun and I thought we could practice lettering a few phrases together today using really common simple pens you might actually have at home already. And I'll just share a few tips and tricks that you can use to improve this technique. And because it's very often used in wedding stationery, we'll focus on wedding words and phrases in particular. We're just going to do a few, and I am currently working on some actual worksheets that I will upload and have for you to print so you can practice following some guidelines, which can be quite helpful if you are new to this technique. I hope you enjoyed. Let's get started. So I got quite a few pens ready just to literally show you that you can do Faux calligraphy with any fine tip pen. Oh, I've got a bit of paint on this one. So this one at the moment is one of my favorites. It's a metallic pen, so this one's gold, by Calligraphy. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's just a really lovely pen. It's really shimmery and yeah, it just looks really pretty and quite soft to letter with as well. Then obviously some classics like Tombow. It's got a fine tip, so it's quite nice to do Faux calligraphy with. And you can use literally anything. So I don't even know where I got these from, but they're like Crayola pens, pretty much the same. So they got like a nice fine tip. I just like this color, so I thought I might use this today. And some micron pens as well, because they're very fine, and if you want to do like a classic looking Faux calligraphy, these would be perfect actually. So in fact, my first ever design I sold on Etsy was done in Faux calligraphy with this pen. So that's how bad I was. I literally couldn't do regular calligraphy just yet. So I was just doing Faux calligraphy for my card designs, but people loved it. I think it's a really pretty look, to be honest. And Faux calligraphy is very often used when you're lettering on like different surfaces. So for example, if you want to letter like a big wedding sign on like a wooden board and you want to use a white pen, so you'll probably need to use an acrylic based pen in that case. And most acrylic pens, for example these Posca pens here, they come in these sort of tips which are not brush tips, so you can't really alternate the pressure, so you can't really do thick downstrokes and thin upstrokes. So you can do Faux calligraphy where you add those downstrokes manually. This technique is definitely good for like bigger scale lettering, and if you want to letter on pumpkins, baubles, let's say wooden ornaments or wooden signs. So yeah, that's usually where it's used the most. So I would say wedding stationery is quite popular for that. So maybe today we'll focus on some wedding stationery words to practice. I do love using Posca pens, but with lettering on paper and when we're practicing, I thought we can just start by using some pens we might be a bit more comfortable with, and then when you're actually lettering on a particular surface, you probably do it with a pen like this or similar, and these do come in different sizes as well, so it doesn't have to be such a chunky one. You can get like fine tip ones, so it's pretty much the same technique, but I wouldn't usually use this on paper. So yeah, we'll just practice with some other pens today. Right, so maybe let's begin by lettering something like, maybe lettering seating plan. So that's something you might need to letter if you're doing like a seating chart for a wedding. So what we're going to do, we're going to letter the phrase first, just sort of normally, and then we'll go back and add in thicker downstrokes. And when you are doing your phrase, make sure that it's well spaced. So we do want to allow enough room so we can actually add an extra stroke here and there. So think about the spacing. So nice bouncy stylized lettering. but it's all in single kind of thickness, like a similar thickness. Right, and once this is dry, so I'm just checking here, I don't want to smudge it, so I'll go back in and start adding extra strokes. You can also always just do one word and then go back to the beginning, or some people prefer to do each letter as they go, and that is quite good to do if you're doing something like windows where your pen might dry quickly and you just want to kind of get the consistency quite nice. So you would do like one letter, thicken the downstroke, move on to the next one and just carry on like that. But for now we can just do the whole phrase and go back in, and here we are. So here's my downstroke here for the letter S, and I'm gonna start from like an outer side rather than kind of coming in from the right. I'm gonna go like to the left. And there's no rules really, like which side you need to do it from. I usually do it depending on the spacing. For example, here, I'm going to do it for the letter E still on this side. But when I get, for example, so I'm doing the letter A, when I get to the letter A here, I'll do it from here. And also the letter T, I'm going to do it from the right side. Just kind of try to achieve nice consistency. It doesn't have to be the same all the time, just kind of do it where you have more room, either to the left or to the right. And as I'm doing some of these strokes, I'm also kind of colouring them in already. Just kind of happens naturally. So I've kind of done all of them, and I'm just going to go back in now and colour these bigger ones. You want to try and achieve like similar thickness. I might need to make this one a bit thicker. You can, you know, still keep them slightly thinner. That's also fine for like more of a classic look. Or if you want like a chunkier look, you can make them thicker. There we are. So I'm going to do the next word. Again, starting here from the top, thickening this downstroke by adding an extra stroke going down. Then doing the letter P here. So trying to think where would my downstroke start. So in this case, I would go like this, and this is where I would start applying heavy pressure if I was doing calligraphy. So the letter L, I'm going to go to the left here. You could also do it from the inside or the inner loop if you like. I'm just going to stick with this. And again, doing the letter A. Quite slowly. It does take quite a lot of focus, just like calligraphy. So yeah, that could be something you do. On a seating plan with a Posca pen, for example, if you're working on a different surface, which is not paper basically. And also just remember to thicken your dots on the letters I, so everything looks a bit more balanced. Right, so maybe let's try using the other side of the Tombow pen. It's got a nice fine tip here. We can stick with the same theme and maybe letter something like find your seat if you're doing a seating plan. So maybe let's do it underneath a little bit smaller, and I'm going to use this lovely kind of burgundy colour. Right, so doing the same thing, nice spacing, stylized lettering. Something like that, and I might make this one a little bit thinner, so I'm not going to go as thick, so I'm not going to leave like too much space between these strokes. I also quite like the look where you don't actually color them in. this is all quite small, so I'm literally just doing like a double stroke sometimes. So there's barely anything to colour. I kind of just do it by going over the downstroke once again, which sometimes also works. Be careful with the transitions, so try to go a bit lighter when you approach sort of like the bottom of your stroke when you're adding the extra one. So we want the transitions to still look nice and smooth. So for example, I'm going down here and I'm just kind of going very lightly here at the bottom and making sure that I'm stopping in a smooth way. Just kind of connecting to this point. Where the stroke ends and the next one begins. There we go, so that could look quite nice. Right, I'm going to try doing something in black. I'm going to use my micron pen and maybe a letter, something like guest book, because sometimes people need like guest book signs. So we can do it here. So this is very thin, but it's the same technique really, just going to look a bit more delicate. You can still add like a lot of style to it. Even by using a monoline pen like this. Alright, let's zoom in and start applying extra strokes. So I'm just literally going to guide my pen up and imagine where my downstroke would start thickening up, which is sort of halfway through the letter. So if you slice this letter into half, you'll clearly see the downstroke stops being thick right in the middle here. Right, gonna do this one here. Again, right in the middle of this shape. Doing this one on the inside. And colouring it all in. So I do love this look. It literally looks like I use a dip pen. It'll be really hard to tell, to be honest, that I didn't actually use a brush pen or a dip pen to do this. It looks quite realistic. I might thicken up this T a little bit more. So we do want to have like a nice consistency. Like I think I need to go a little bit thicker here. So you can always, go back and correct as well. And because this is usually a sign, it probably does want to be a bit thicker. So it's a bit easier to read. You can also just do your lettering in like a less stylized way to begin with. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult to see where the thick stroke would go when you're doing like a very stylistic lettering like here. If you're finding it difficult, just start with like a very simple style lettering. Some letters are very small, so it's quite actually hard to access those thicker lines. And like here, for example, I have quite a big gap between these two letters. So I'm going to go backwards to kind of, with an idea to fill in this gap a little bit so my spacing isn't as, you know, drastic here. So we kind of bring this letter closer to the letter O. Here we are. And the last one here, and this little one here. Always go back and check that, you know, you've done all the downstrokes. So here we go. A few points here could have been a bit smoother, but it does not look bad. So literally, as I said, I would not tell probably that it's been done in a 4 lettering style. So I have one more pen to try here, and maybe let's letter something like, or maybe welcome, like if you wanted to do like a welcome sign. So this one's quite chunky, so it's going to be quite thick naturally. So I'm going to do the word welcome. Be mindful about the spacing. Just letting it flow as much as I can. The more you let it flow, the more natural it's going to look. Right, so we're going to start here with the letter W, and because the tip is very, very like fluffy and thick, I can get away by literally just applying a bit more pressure when I'm going down, because it kind of just like colors it in a way. So here we go. I'm just going to use the tip to very carefully just smooth out these transitions. So that's probably where it's most visible, at the top and bottom, where you're starting your stroke and finishing your stroke. So you can always just smooth out a little bit. So here we are, just a few phrases to try. If you want to do some wedding stationery signs, I highly recommend using these Posca pens when doing actual lettering. So yeah, but this is just for practicing. I hope these tips were helpful. Have fun with it and see you soon. Bye.